Hi, I'm Michael Hartwell, and I'm going to be doing my speech on mental illness and its correlation with teens. And I'm performing the speech in front of my girlfriend Emma. According to teenmentalhealth.org, 1 in 5 young people suffer from a mental illness. That's 20% of our population. But yet only about 4% of total healthcare budget is spent on our mental health. This is a staggering number, and we need to spend more resources looking into this issue. Many young people are suffering from mental illness and aren't getting the attention they need. These young people are scared to share what they are going through in fear of being bullied or ridiculed for saying that they have a mental illness. As a society, we need to be more informed on how mental illness and teens are connected. Many young people you know may be dealing with mental illness and you wouldn't even know it. Your children, brother, sister, or other family members could be battling it and you would never know. It is important to reach out to the young people in your life and make sure their mental health is okay, and let them know that they can talk to you about mental health and mental illness. Having knowledge about mental illness will help me better understand the causes and the effects of mental illness among teens, as well as having knowledge on why teens are afraid to speak up and ways they can manage their illnesses. I'm personally connected to this topic because I know many people who have or have had mental illness. Currently, my brother and girlfriend both suffer from anxiety, and hearing them speak about their experiences has opened my eyes to how crippling a mental illness can be. Growing up, I never knew that my brother dealt with anxiety because he never talked about it, and this is the case for many young people. He hid it and tried to deal with it himself the best he could, but it didn't work, and he finally talked to my family about it. Once he talked to my family, my parents were able to get him help he needed. Also, currently, my girlfriend suffers from anxiety, and by dating her, I've learned many things about her mental illness. To better my understanding on how mental illnesses in teens are connected, I've done extensive research. First, I talked to my brother, who has a mental illness and has lived with it since he was a teenager. He helped me understand more about his experience, starting with when he realized he had the mental illness, its effects, and how he got his illness under control. Next, I talked to my girlfriend, who also has a mental illness. We discussed her experience with it, and finally I looked at various websites and looked at other teens' blog posts and TED Talks to see if they differ from the experiences I've heard from my brother and girlfriend. In this speech, I will first describe the causes of mental illness for young adults. Second, I will explain the effects of mental illness, and finally I will discuss why teens are afraid to speak up and tools to overcome them. There are many causes of mental illness amongst teens. First, one of the many causes is genetics. Genetics are traits you get from your parents and are passed on from generation to generation. These genetics can affect your risk of mental illness and how much they affect you. According to Polaris Teen Center for Mental Health, there are 3 main reasons genetics cause mental illness in teens. First, genes govern organic changes or abnormalities in the brain, which can predispose an adolescent to diagnoses of schizophrenia or Alzheimer's. Genes can be responsible for abnormalities in an adolescent's development before or after birth. This means mental disorders develop as a result of chromosomal mutations or deletions. And number 3, genes may influence one's susceptibility to depression, anxiety, personality, and/or substance abuse disorders. Children and adolescents who have a first-degree relative with mental illness are at a higher risk of development of their own mental disorders. The second cause of mental illness in teens are the environment they are in. If a teen is in a stressful environment, they will have a higher chance of getting a mental illness compared to someone in a stable environment. Some examples of these stressful environments include trauma, emotional, sexual, or physical abuse, bullying, demands at school or work, unstable or dysfunctional home environments, domestic violence, early loss, such as a parent or sibling, unsafe living conditions. And finally, a major cause of mental illness is substance abuse at an early age. According to the National Institute on Drug Abuse, many people who are addicted to drugs are also diagnosed with other mental disorders and vice versa, compared with the general population. People addicted to drugs are roughly twice as likely to suffer from mood and anxiety disorders, with the reverse also being true. And in addition to these causes of mental illnesses, these effects on the teens are the effects on the teens themselves. Some of these effects can take control of a teen's life and can have the teens feeling helpless. In the short term, mental health problems can cause people to be alienated from their peers, because of perceived misconceptions about mental illness. They can also cause anger, fear, sadness, and feelings of helplessness if a person does not know or understand what is happening. These feelings can lead a person to skip important things in their life like school or work, and they will feel isolated the worse the mental illness. They will feel more isolated the worse the mental illness can get. In the long term, mental health disorders can drive a person to be completely isolated from others, and the more they feel isolated, the worse the mental illnesses can get. Eventually, the illnesses can get so bad that those suffering can commit suicide. These illnesses are contributing to the suicide rate among teens to rise. The suicide rate in the United States for 15 to 24 age group was 5,079 suicides, making it the second leading cause of deaths for the age range, according to the CDC. Harsh effects of having mental illnesses can make it very hard for teens to speak up and get the help they need when there are important tools they can take advantage of. Mental illness is also usually talked about in negative ways in society. It needs to be talked about in more positive ways so teens can comfortably admit to people that they have the illnesses and try to get help. There are many resources for teens to get help, but the first most important step is talking to someone about what you're going through. This could be a parent or anyone you're comfortable with, but we have to make these resources available to teens so they feel as if they can share and not be at risk of criticism. According to the Columbus Recovery Center, the best ways a teen can get help with mental illness is to educate yourself about mental illness, talk openly about your mental illness, be supportive, not enabling, do not use dismissive or judgment language with someone who has a mental illness, consult your pediatrician or primary care doctor, and get a referral for a mental health specialist. In this speech, I described the causes of mental illness. Next, I explained the effects of mental illnesses among teens. Finally, I discussed why teens are afraid to speak up and tools to overcome these mental illnesses. Having knowledge about these mental illnesses can help me better understand the causes and the effects of mental illness amongst teens, as well as having knowledge on why teens are afraid to speak up and ways they can manage their illnesses. This is a very important topic for me because I'm surrounded by people who suffer from mental illnesses each day. Gaining knowledge on mental illnesses can help me better understand what happens when people are experiencing anxiety or depression. Anxiety is something I want to learn more about as it affects my brother and girlfriend severely. Learning about anxiety will help me will allow me to listen to them and hear them when they are struggling. I want to be there for them. Thank you.